process towards socioeconomic recovery and inclusive development in the Bangsamoro. So to give the first inspirational message, representing on behalf of Secretary Carl Kendrick T. Chua, the Socioeconomic Planning Secretary of the National Economic and Development Authority, we have Assistant Secretary Greg L. Pineda joining us virtually. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. To our partners in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or BARM, the members of the Bangsamoro ministries and offices, representatives from various local government units in the Bangsamoro region, to our international and local development partners, stakeholders, guests, good morning. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, as the country's national planning agency, believes that the strong collaboration among various sectors and institutions is crucial in attaining our development objectives. This forum, which gathers national and international players, exemplifies that synergy as NEDA joins BARM and its partners in the next steps in the implementation of its regional development plan. We witnessed firsthand the enthusiasm of our development partners when the BARM was established after the enactment and ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in 2019. The recent approval of the extension of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or the BTA, will allow for the establishment of a fully functioning and self-sustaining government that is attuned to the needs and aspirations of the Bangsamoro peoples and responsive to the socio-economic and peace landscape of the region. Some of you assisted the Bangsamoro government by providing socio-economic development interventions to the once conflict-affected communities, enabling them to transform into productive areas. Even in the midst of this pandemic, our development partners have likewise continued to assist the Bangsamoro government in responding to and addressing the impact of COVID-19. We hope that this forum will spark more interest in all of us to sustain our initiatives with our partners in the BARM government, even beyond the transition period. Meantime, the next 3 years will provide more time to build the foundations for self-governance, inclusive peace, and sustainable development. NEDA remains committed in strengthening our partnerships together with partners from our national government agencies, our development partners, and other institutions to effectively facilitate development assistance and support to the Bangsamoro government. We all share the BARM's vision for a united, enlightened, self-governing, peaceful, just, morally upright, and progressive Bangsamoro. And as we move forward from this pandemic, let us be reminded that thinking together, working together, and achieving together will propel us towards full recovery. Let us build a legacy of lasting peace and inclusive development towards a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. Mabuhay at maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, the Assistant Secretary of the National Economic and Development Authority, ASEC Greg L. Pineda, highlighting the development partners continue to assist the BARM government in addressing the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, and that the Bangsamoro government is true to the needs and aspirations of the Bangsamoro people. Next, another Inspirational message will be given by the chair of the GPH Peace Implementing Panel, representing Secretary Carlito G. Galvez Jr. We have Undersecretary David B. Diciano.
Good morning to everyone. I first greet Honorable Ahod Ibrahim, the Chief Minister of the BARM, Honorable Abdurauf Makakuwa, the Senior Minister of the BARM, Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament, MP Ali Pangalian Balindong, representing Secretary Car Kendrick Chua, ASEC Greg Pineda of NEDA, Honorable Mohager Iqbal, Ministry of Basic, Higher and Technical Education, international and local development partners, other guests, muli magandang umaga. The Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process, or OPAP, is honored to be part of the first Donors Forum of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Under the Duterte administration, significant milestones have been achieved under the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro or CAP. We thank our local and international peace partners for your generosity, partnership, trust, and sincerity in helping us achieve our mutual goal of bringing a just and lasting peace and sustainable development in the Bangsamoro. Furthermore, the generosity of peace donors' assistance to the BNTF is an avenue to complement the financing schemes for the normalization program. The GPA likewise commends the Barm government for formulating its first Bangsamoro Development Plan 2020-2022, which outlines the region's trust and priorities that are anchored on the 12-point agenda of the Bangsamoro government. The BDP is consistent with and supportive of the national government's development agenda as outlined in the Ambition Natin 2040, Philippine Development Plan 2017-2022, and the 0+10-point socioeconomic agenda of the President of the Philippines. Synergy and alignment of key development goals of the BDP vis-a-vis the responsibilities of the BARM is therefore crucial to promote the equitable and sustainable development and effective use of economic resources to attain inclusive economic growth in the Bangsamoro. Donor assistance, which may be harnessed to support development plans in the Bangsamoro, should also be contextualized under the BARM government's comprehensive framework for sustainable development. Official development assistance granted to the BARM should also recognize the vital role and direct participation of women in governance, as well as observance of gender sensitivity and fundamental equality before the law. Donor assistance will be a vital component of this initiative, alongside funding support from the national government to intensify development efforts for the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and development of the Bangsamoro. The continued coordination between the national government and BARM government will be the key to ensure effective, efficient, and adequate support to the Bangsamoro's development goals. Thank you to all who participated in this forum. May our multi-sectoral, multi-nation partnerships continue to remain strong as ever towards achieving our mutual goal of a just, sustainable peace and development for the people of the Bangsamoro. Thank you very much, and mabuhay.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, the chair of the GPH Peace Implementing Panel, Undersecretary David B. Dashana, stressing that the key to ensure effective, efficient, adequate development goals is through partnerships. Next, we have another inspirational message. Joining us live via Zoom is the Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament. We have Honorable MP Ali Pangalian M. Balindong.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Our Amirul Mujahideen, Chief Minister Ahud Balawag Ibrahim, Senior Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa, Minister Muhagir Iqbal, and other members of the cabinet who are either present or attending in this virtual meeting, the officers and colleagues in the Bangsamoro Parliament, our international and local partners for development, our national leaders who are present either by Zoom or who are present in the venue. I see the representatives of the local government units. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Of course, before I proceed, I'm sorry, I'd like to greet the Director General, Director General Ali of the BDP. I'm sorry, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am very honored to be invited to speak before you in this forum for our national and international partners on the implementation of the first Bangsamoro Development Plan. I am delighted to see familiar faces who had been and are still contributing their skills and knowledge to us so that we may be well capacitated to perform our duties to our people. As you all know, the first Bangsamoro Development Plan is an integral part of the framework agreement because it is the master plan that sets the direction for the delivery of essential services to our people during the transition period. However, since the interim government was given an extension until 2025 to implement its mandate, I believe that it is also proper that we revisit our previous plan
All right, apologies for that. We're just experiencing a technical glitch at the moment.
as well as provide solutions to problems that we may encounter along the way. If there are gaps in the implementation of the first Bangsamoro development plan, we need your opinion on how to correct them and render them to be more responsive to the needs of our people. But while we seek your continued help and support for the rest of the transition period, we also hope that our partnership should also be mutually beneficial for both of us. We hope to provide you with adequate knowledge from our own experiences in post-conflict development and rehabilitation. Our rapid progress in all aspects of governance, despite the pandemic and scarcity in financial resources, is something that is worth sharing to peoples and institutions in other jurisdictions. I honestly believe that we have already broken the barrier created by political distrust, and that the national government itself has provided the necessary support to integrate our collective aspirations for our people and nation. Finally, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for your cooperation, support, and commitment to improve the quality of life of the Bangsamoro. We would not have accomplished so much without your contributions to our peace and development efforts. We hope to do more in the years to come with your usual and dedicated assistance. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Once again, that was MP Ali Pangalian M. Balindong, the Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament. Can we have a round of applause, please, for our Parliament Speaker? Now, just to give emphasis on what the Speaker had said, there are problems that we may encounter along the way, and presently one of which is internet connectivity. But, as what the Speaker had said, our rapid progress is something that is worth sharing to people, to institutions, and jurisdictions. Next in line, another inspirational message will be given by the IGRB and MILF Peace Panel Chair and the Minister of the Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education. Please welcome Honorable Muhager M. Iqbal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Magandang umaga. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On behalf of the Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education, I welcome you to the first BARMM Donors Forum. It is a privilege for me to convey a message of friendship and cooperation before our peace and development partners here in the Bangsamoro. Your attendance in today's activity signifies your interest in supporting various areas and programs designed to benefit the Bangsamoro people and their right to chart their political, economic, and social future. After more than a year of dealing with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, we hope that the year 2022 will be milestone year for the BARM. Indeed, we are determined to carry out our mandate to serve the Bangsamoro people and fulfill the directives of our Chief Minister, Honorable Ahod Balawag Ibrahim. Furthermore, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Extension, the Republic Act number 11593, will provide us with more opportunities to institutionalize crucial reforms in the BARM, lay the foundation for moral governance, and protect the well-being of our constituents. In this regard, I am confident all of you here will support us in our endeavors and our desire to uplift the lives of our people. In our shared goal to help the BARM attain its goals, donor coordination and cooperation will be crucial. As more development actors are becoming visible on the ground to complement BARM priority programs and assist conflict-affected communities, we will need to define our collective purpose and objectives. Hence, during this forum, we hope to know more about your country strategies, your programs and technical assistance, your progress and achievements, and the areas that lack attention. We must avoid any duplication of work to maximize the valuable resources coming from our respective taxpayers. More importantly, we need to utilize the co-design process and other applicable participatory approaches in our joint planning and implementation. The recipient should be regarded as co-designers and active partners, while we are keen to pursue strategic partnerships with the international community, and we sincerely appreciate your unwavering support. I want to emphasize that any program should not supplant our strategies and approaches. Furthermore, we need to build trust and confidence between the international partners and process owners. Once again, thank you very much for taking time from your busy schedules to attend this forum. My congratulations to Engineer Muhajirin Ali and the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority for organizing this event. We look forward to meaningful partnerships and inspiring collaboration. Maraming salamat po. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, that was Minister Mohager M. Iqbal, the IGRB and MILF Peace Panel Chair, and the Minister of the Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education. So we had individuals who provided us inspirational messages. For the first Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao Donors Forum, we had ASEC Greg L. Pineda from the National Economic and Development Authority, USEC David Dishano from the GPH Peace Panel, MP Ali Pangalian Balindong, the Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament, and Honorable Minister Mohager Iqbal, the IGRB and MILF Peace Panel Chair and the Minister of the MBHTE. Now everyone, may I request you to gear your attention once again to the big screen for the keynote address of the Chief Minister of the Government of the Day, Honorable Ahod Murad Balawag Ibrahim.
My courtesies to foreign dignitaries, donors, and national line agencies. Mr. Christoph Wagner, Head of Cooperation Delegation of European Union to the Philippines, Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez, Resident Coordinator of United Nations, Dr. Nindiami Diop, Country Director of World Bank, Senator Richard J. Gordon, Chairman and CEO of Philippine Red Cross, Secretary Carl Kendrick T. Chua, Socio-Economic Planning Secretary, National Economic and Development Authority. Honorable members of the Bangsamoro Parliament present today, key representatives from the BARM ministries, development partners, and civil society organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. For more than 4 decades of the Bangsamoro struggle, and until now, we have seen how our development partners helped shape the Bangsamoro peace process and contribute to the continuous effort to achieve lasting peace and development in the region. Undoubtedly, the influence of our development partners' support in the Bangsamoro region exemplifies the impact of a genuine development partnership. Thus, this first BARMM Donors Forum with the theme Optimizing Partnership Development Partners and the BARMM is indeed a timely and imperative effort aimed at further strengthening the partnership and cooperation between the Bangsamoro government and development partners from the international, national, and local levels. The BARMM is fortunate to have partners that have spent financial, physical, and even emotional investments to the Bangsamoro cause. It is through the same passion and commitment that the government of the day finds ease and assurance that we are not alone in this journey. I would like to thank and congratulate the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority for taking the initiative to organize and convene this forum. This provides an opportunity for BARMM and development partners to continue the discourse on how to work together to lay the groundwork for a peaceful transition and deliver tangible dividends to communities as a result of the Bangsamoro peace process. Indeed, one of the most vital roles that our development partners have played, which goes beyond simply providing financial support and is clearly more significant, has been the provision of technical assistance to chart BARMM's development direction, especially during BARMM's critical transition. This support also contributes to outlining essential strategies for response and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Our development partners have played a crucial role as knowledge and resource brokers, and we have been able to leverage this capacity to bring together relevant stakeholders from the international, national, and local levels in a concerted effort to promote sustainable and inclusive peace and development in the Bangsamoro region. With efforts that stretches through the different layers of government and the guidance of our existing development plans with BPDA and the NEDA, we are always reminded to provide services that are in line with the vision of this transition period. And again, luckily for us, we have all of you by our side. Alhamdulillah, now that the Bangsamoro transition period has been extended, additional work awaits us as we progress toward the peaceful transition and grapple with the unprecedented health crisis that have intensified existing development challenges in BARMM. The support of our development partners is more critical than ever. With this, I would like to highlight some crucial points. First and foremost, we need to strengthen development partnership to sustain the early gains of the Bangsamoro transition in addressing bureaucratic challenges and gaps and advancing efforts towards the entire establishment of the BARMM bureaucracy. Second, we need to promote convergence of efforts and employ risk-adapted strategies of cooperation between the Bangsamoro government and development partners in order to implement priority programs and services which help address the repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic, such as intensifying of healthcare services, strengthening social protection mechanisms, improving livelihood support, sustaining the food supply chain, ensuring continuity of educational opportunities, and improving the region's adaptive capacity to the current crisis. Finally, we need to foster a stronger whole of government and a whole of society effort to fully deliver on the promises of the peace process and ensure long-term economic growth and sustainable peace and development in the Bangsamoro. Let me conclude by expressing our heartfelt gratitude to our development partners for your unwavering support for the Bangsamoro. I hope you will continue to be proactive and passionate in assisting us, not only in ensuring a peaceful transition, but also in achieving our long-term goal of improving the lives of the Bangsamoro and setting the foundations for self-governance. As we enter the next 3 years of rebuilding this beautiful region, I hope that our partnership and friendship will continue to prosper and to be of benefit to our people, inshallah. Thank you so much, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, sir. Once again, that was the Chief Minister of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Honorable Ahod Balawag Ibrahim. So before we proceed to the second part of our forum, let's dive in with some music and dance performance by the Timanan Tiduray Cultural Dance Group for an intermission number. A round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Once again, that was the Timanan Teduray Cultural Dance Group. Now to discuss to us the government's accomplishments in greater detail, as well as the development directions of BARM, please welcome the Bangsamoro Director General of the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, Engineer Muhajirin T. Ali, MNSA. A round of applause, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My courtesies to our very own Chief Minister Ahud Balawag Ibrahim, to Secretary Caldito Garvez, represented by Undersecretary David Desiano, to Senior Minister Abdurrauf Makakua, to NEDA Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua, represented by ASEC Greg Pineda, to BTA Parliament Speaker Attorney Alan Ali Pangalian Balindong, to IGRB Chair and MILPC Implementing Chair, at the same time Ministry of Basic Higher and Technical Education, Mr. Muhagir Iqbal, to Cabinet Secretary Astin Pendatun, Grand Mufti Abu Huraira Udasan, our MP members who are present here physically, MP Susana Nayatin, ma'am, MP Bainta ng Batuan, ma'am, MP Abbas Ahmad, MP Suwaib Uranon, and other MPs who are present via Zoom, to Senator Dick Gordon, the Philippine Red Cross Chair, who are present via Zoom, to UN Resident Coordinator Gustavo Gonzalez, and the entire UN country team, Mr. Christoph Wagner, the head of cooperation of the European Union delegation to the Philippines, Dr. Indiami Diop, World Bank Country Director, representative from various LGUs of the BARM who are present physically and via Zoom, and the rest of our development partners and stakeholders who are present here today and who join us also via Zoom. Good morning, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you for taking time to join us today. Today's donor forum will provide everyone with a glimpse of what the Bangsamoro government has achieved so far. Where we are in terms of the first Bangsamoro Development Plan targets, the challenges we face, and opportunities for greater collaboration with development partners. As we all know, BARM was established by virtue of Republic Act 11054 or the Bangsamoro Organic Law. BARM is home to a population of almost 5 million, including Cotabato City and the 63 barangays of North Cotabato. This is now the BARM map showing its land areas. The green color, the provincial boundary, the black lines, provincial capital or city, the yellow dot in Holosulu, Bungao, Tawi-Tawi, Lamitan City, Marawi City, and Cotabato City. The Bangsamoro waters, the blue color, and the new one in the previous map of the ARM is the zones of joint cooperation, the white color in shade areas in the map. So as you can see, areas covered under the zones of joint cooperation with the national government is so wide and extensive. The zones of joint cooperation are proposed non-contiguous area covering a large portion of the Sulu Sea and Moro Gulf, which will be managed jointly by the Bangsamoro government and the national government. In 2018, BARM recorded the highest poverty incidence in the country. 63% of the individuals are considered poor. The region also recorded the highest subsistence incidence among population both in the first semester of 2015 and 2018. About 36% of the Bangsamoros in the region are food poor. While these figures are discouraging, BARM is happy to note that its economy did not suffer heavy losses at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic as compared with other regions. BARM posted the smallest drop in terms of economic performance last year at only negative 1.9%. This is a remarkable achievement considering that other regions posted negative 9 to about negative 14 of losses. Indeed, we are slowly reaping the benefits of peace in BARM as evidenced by the influx of investments in the region in the last 3 years. In 2019, BARM is also one of the top performers in terms of GRDP. We are 7th in the entire country to have registered increased growth rate of 5.9% and 2nd in Mindanao. There are underlying causes and factors influencing governance and development in the BARM region. The state of governance in BARM is vulnerable, owing primarily to the bureaucracy's fragile state during the transition period. As a new government, BARM is also confronted with the critical role of managing the region's peace and security situation, particularly in addressing long-standing security threats. While we are witnessing economic growth, albeit slow, poverty incidence remains high owing to low outcomes on health, education, and basic services. Insufficient infrastructure facilities and services continue to make us vulnerable to disasters and climate change. The COVID-19 pandemic came at a critical juncture in BARM's transition period. The impact on labor and employment is one of the consequences of this pandemic. We have witnessed the repatriation of overseas workers. Meantime, workers in the formal sector had to contend with reduced work schedules or loss of jobs. Existing vulnerabilities were exacerbated as a result of the global pandemic. Quarantine protocols also affected agricultural outputs. This, combined with logistical challenges, has resulted in a decline in our exports. COVID-19 related restrictions hampered the movement of goods and services and constrained local supply chains, forcing the temporary closure of many businesses, establishments. While the threat to food security is high, it is worth noting that fisheries production in BARM increased. The imposition of quarantine protocols has also impacted MSMEs and cooperatives in BARM. Economic activities and key government construction projects were also disrupted. We are also anticipating that transportation restriction and temporary closure of non-essential establishment will significantly slow down the services sector growth. And we are seeing decreased domestic and foreign vessel traffic in Puyok, Freeport, and Economic Zone. As of November 2021, BARM had an active COVID-19 cases, had 443 active COVID-19 cases, and 599 deaths. More than 14,000 have since recovered. Owing this part to the recent conduct of National Vaccination Day last November 29 to December 1, we have reported a total of 843,503 individuals, or 28% of the BARM population with at least one dose, or which 410,426 are fully vaccinated. The BARM government has been finding ways to emerge stronger from the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that the region's socio-economic recovery continues during the transition period. Through the Bangsamoro Response and Recovery Plan Framework for COVID-19, or BRRP, the Bangsamoro government defined critical strategies and strategic priorities, including mitigating measures adapting to the new normal. Despite these challenges, the Bangsamoro government remains optimistic and sees numerous opportunities to revitalize the region's economy owing to the region's abundant natural resources and diverse natural topography, which includes vast tracts of fertile land and marine resources. The BARM government will capitalize on these opportunities by developing an enabling policy for land reform, investing in research and development, and building capacities. Because agriculture, forestry, and fishing continue to dominate the region's economy, BARM has the enormous potential to expand these industries. In fact, when compared to other regions, we produce the best crops and fishery products which serve as the primary source of income across the region. Furthermore, global and regional opportunities for halal and Islamic finance are expanding, which can aid in the region's socio-economic development. We recognize opportunities for BARM development. The national government's commitment to normalization program supports the BARM's goal of pursuing inclusive socio-economic recovery and development during the transition period. The strong support of development partners is also critical to the successful implementation of priority programs and projects. Furthermore, the passage of Republic Act 11439, or an act providing for the regulation and organization of Islamic banks, creates an enabling environment for Islamic finance to thrive in BARM and throughout the country. Bangsamoro development is anchored on 4 key documents: the BARM's 12-point priority agenda, the first Bangsamoro Development Plan, the Bangsamoro Response and Recovery Plan for COVID-19, and the CAMS Transformation Plan. The Bangsamoro government remains committed to the 12-point priority agenda outlined here. As outlined in the first BDP, we remain true to our vision of a Bangsamoro region that is united, self-governing, peaceful, just, morally upright, and progressive. We strive for genuine and meaningful autonomy founded on moral governance. BARM recognizes the 8 development goals critical to realizing our vision, establishing the foundation of moral governance, sustaining and enhancing the condition of peace and security, improving economic development of BARM, promoting the Bangsamoro identity, cultures, and diversity, improving the human capital development, harnessing technology and innovation to increase socio-economic opportunities and improve government services, increasing strategic and climate resilient infrastructure, and improving ecological integrity and resilience of BARM communities. The Bangsamoro government has made significant progress in governance as well as in crafting priority legislation and implementing flagship programs since we assumed office on February 2019. We formulated the first Bangsamoro Development Plan, which aimed to realize the Bangsamoro people's shared hopes and aspirations as envisioned in the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Of the 6 priority codes, 3 landmark codes have been passed. These are the Administrative Code, the Bangsamoro Civil Service Code, and the Bangsamoro Education Code. To strengthen the coordination between BARM and the national government, the Intergovernmental Relation Body was established. The IGRB is an essential mechanism on intergovernmental relation through regular consultation and continuing negotiations. Lastly, the BARM created the Bangsamoro Human Rights Commission, Bangsamoro Attorney General's Office, Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, Bangsamoro Youth Commission, Bangsamoro Women Commission, and the Bangsamoro Sports Commission to realize key provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. The government of the day has established strong ties with the national government to ensure the safety and security of the people in the region. We have the camp transformation plan covering the 6 previously acknowledged MILF camps across the region, which will eventually be transformed into a peaceful and productive community. The plan would also support transitioning the commission combatants, including their families and communities. BARM has also made significant strides in sustaining the gains of peace by working with stakeholders in the resolution of RIDO or clan wars through the training of over 1,500 mediators. Finally, we held the first Bangsamoro Peace and Security Summit in May 2021, which concluded through the signing of a pledge of commitment to fortify the collaboration and coordination of the different stakeholders in keeping the peace, security, and development in the region. Among the social development programs implemented by the BARM are Bangsamoro Sagip Kabuhayan, Angat Bangsamoro, Kabataan Tungo sa Karunungan, and the Cash for Work program in impoverished areas of the region. BARM also launched the Bangsamoro Critical Assistance in response to emergency response or Bangsamoro Cares to aid communities that suffered the man-made and natural disasters. In an effort to realize the vision of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in education, BARM invested heavily on the construction of classrooms and provision of basic education. services in schoolless barangays. The MBHTE's Abot Kaalaman sa Pamilyang AKAP Bangsamoro program reached more than 90 barangays with support from the Australian Aid through the Pathways program and the consortium of Bangsamoro Civil Society and BRAC Philippines. To date, more than 14,000 individuals have received TVET scholarship through BARMM's scholarship program. To strengthen BARMM's COVID-19 response, we have procured avalanches, cold chain vehicles, generators, and biologic refrigerators for vaccine storage. We also equip our hospitals with equipment and supply needed to respond to the challenges of COVID-19. BARM believes that the backbone of region's economy is a capable network of critical infrastructure. In the last 3 years, we have invested 28.5 billion pesos in infrastructure, which is more than half of the lifetime budget for infrastructure of the former ARM administration. We will pave 1,074.38 kilometers of road, construct 164 bridges, 127 flood control projects, 385 water systems, and 94 seaports. The Bangsamoro government recorded a total of 2.4 billion and 877.5 million pesos in investments in 2019 and 2020 respectively. We have launched the BARM Food Security and Nutrition Roadmap 2020-2030, which is the result of collaboration among agencies looking to promote the Bangsamoro people's food security and nutrition situation in the coming years. For 2021, the Ministry of Environment, Natural Resources and Energy, MENRE, established an online-based tracking system for application of land patents and survey returns. The 70% targets for this year has been achieved. The Bangsamoro government was able to rehabilitate, develop, and protect almost 15,000 hectares of the denuded watersheds within BARM. The BARM, through the Office of the Chief Minister, is implementing 5 flagship programs, namely Tabang, Ambag, Kapyanan, Marawi Rehabilitation Program or MRP, and support to local moral governance to respond to pressing social and economic needs of our people. The BARM's Project Tabang aims to provide basic services and assistance to the Bangsamoro people who are in need and the less fortunate, most especially in poverty and calamity-stricken communities. The Ayudang Medical mula sa Bangsamoro Government or AMBAG program is a medical assistance program that aims to subsidize the hospital and medical expenses of Bangsamoro patients which are not covered by PhilHealth and other medical assistance programs. Kapyanan is one of the banner programs of BARM, providing comprehensive housing with livelihood program which aims to improve the living condition of the poor in the region. The Marawi Rehabilitation Program, MRP, aims to make full use of the information and data gathered in the report of the BARM Parliament Special Committee on Marawi by launching initiatives that are truly evidence-based and people-centered. Finally, the BARM support to local moral governance aims to provide key infrastructure facilities to Bangsamoro communities. We are rigorously crafting policies that promote a culture of transparency and accountability in government. Now, in light of the 3-year extension period for the Bangsamoro transition and taking into account the development agenda and framework we are currently reviewing the Bangsamoro Development Roadmap. And as we did with the first Bangsamoro Development Plan, we will hold a series of consultations with various stakeholders from different sectors in updating the Bangsamoro strategic directions for the transition period 2022 to 2025 to ensure that this roadmap will be a result of an inclusive process and is faithful to the region's current needs. We expect that by 2025, key provisions of Bangsamoro Organic Law are substantially delivered in this transition period with an established BARMM bureaucracy founded on the principles of moral governance, key priority codes passed and enforced, a multifaceted BARMM justice system in its place, enhanced delivery of basic services, and a resilient health system. The Bangsamoro government, through the BPDA, have identified 10 strategic priorities for the next 3 years. First is on addressing the identified BARMM bureaucratic challenges and gaps. Second is the full establishment of the BARMM bureaucracy. Third is the completion of the passage of priority legislation. Fourth is the continuing improvement of functionality and performance of BARMM's local government units. Fifth is on improving access of people and quality delivery of social services at all levels of government. Sixth is improving productivity in agriculture and services through value chain approach. Seventh is on sustaining and promoting peace, public order, and safety in the region. Eighth is on mitigating emergency and re-emerging infectious disease and climate and disaster risk, especially the vulnerable sectors. Ninth is improving infrastructure support facilities. And tenth is on substantially providing support for the completion of rehabilitation and reconstruction of Marawi City. The achievement of these 10 priorities should be cognizant of the challenges posed by the current COVID-19 pandemic and the new normal that it brings into our lives. We need to strengthen our COVID-19 vaccination efforts in the hope of reaching herd immunity. The BARMM government continues to receive support from our friends from the international development community. The gains that we achieved so far are partly because of the critical interventions provided by our partners. Allow me to name a few of the projects that are being implemented in the BARMM nowadays, or currently. The European Union delegation to the Philippines extended critical support for BARMM's transition period through Subatra program. The EU also supports effort to sustain the gains of peace in the region through the PD-BARMM program. Our friends from the World Bank also invested in revitalizing BARMM's agriculture sector. The Spanish cooperation is implementing the Justice and Society project component of Subatra. They also support the BARMM government in strengthening our WASH governance and programming in highly vulnerable areas of the region. JICA and the Embassy of Japan in the Philippines continue to provide capacity development and intervention and support for our health sector. The Australian government, through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in the Philippines, enhances the capacity of MBHTE to implement K-3 through the Pathways program. The BARMM government also received technical support from the embassies of Malaysia and Switzerland. In terms of governance, the BARMM receives technical assistance from the Asia Foundation Center for Humanitarian Dialogue and the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. Our friends from ACF and ICRC provide us the technical assistance in disaster risk reduction and humanitarian support. Geneva Call and Relief International also play critical roles in developing the capacities of BARMM and its stakeholders on grassroots advocacy, ensuring that our interventions are inclusive and aligned with international standards. The BARMM government is also grateful for the support provided by the United Nations County Team, including technical assistance on peace building, food security, agri-fishery, COVID-19 response, governance, disaster risk reduction, renewable energy, and social protection, women empowerment, gender and development, IDP protection, health, and the smooth and timely undertaking of the transition period. We are grateful for the support of the Asian Development Bank in establishing direct innovation centers in BARMM and providing livelihood to the affected population of the Marawi siege. As BARMM navigates the critical transition, initiatives are planned in terms of strengthening our local governments, including the capacity development of newly elected officials, planning, budgeting, and local legislation, solid waste management, revenue generation, and youth empowerment. We have also identified infrastructure projects critical for the development of the region. This includes public markets, ports, terminals, and tourism centers. There is also much to do in terms of revitalizing BARMM's infrastructure. The regional government welcomes expert support to undertake these master plans and feasibility studies. These infrastructure projects will definitely put BARMM in the map as an investment destination not only in the Philippines, but also in Southeast Asia. In terms of peace and security, BARMM has identified gaps in Community Resilience Program, DRR, COVID-19 response, and support for law enforcement agencies. Key interventions that will help BARMM spur economic development are identified in the areas of food security, halal industry, research and development, industry clustering roadmap, and the crafting of BARMM's investment code, among others. Our social development interventions that are focused on revitalizing education need support in terms of construction of alternative delivery model, school buildings and learning centers, in-service training for our school teachers, the development of a regional assessment system for the Bangsamoro learners, and support for our immunization program. Finally, the Bangsamoro government envisions the construction of a sports training center and plans to introduce interventions in the areas of education, research management, and strengthening its quality management systems. In closing, allow me to convey my heartfelt thanks to you, our friends from the development community. The Bangsamoro transition period is a life-changing experience for many of us in the Bangsamoro region. While the challenges were great, we have been able to persist and have reached this point in our history because of you who have walked with us in this journey. Again, thank you for listening. Magandang umaga po, good morning, and salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Sir Haj. Once again, the Bangsamoro Director General of the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, Engineer Muhajirin T. Ali, MNSA. So as said by the Chief Minister earlier during his keynote address, the Bangsamoro government is not alone in this journey. We have our development partners who play a vital role. They serve as our colleagues and resource person in achieving lasting peace and development. So at this point in time, we shall now hear the statement of support from our development partners. First, we have the head of cooperation of the delegation of European Union to the Philippines, Mr. Christopher Wagner, joining us live via Zoom.
Yes, thank you so much, and then very good morning to Cotabato and to everybody online. Honorable Chief Minister Ibrahim, Senior Minister Abdul Wahab Makakua, Minister Iqbal, Honorable Speaker Pangalian Balingdong, and also Deputy Speaker Omar Sena. I'd like also to acknowledge USEC David Diciano representing Secretary Carlito, and ASEC Greg Pinera representing Secretary Chua. All the esteemed members of the PTA Parliament, members of the Cabinet, also the representatives of the LGUs. It's great to see you here in large numbers. My fellow development partners, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning again. So let me just say thank you very much for organizing this event. Thank you for bringing together development partners and key stakeholders. In particular, thank you to the BPDA and the Director General Marjain Ali. It is important indeed to take stock, as you just did, to see where you are in this critical phase, to acknowledge the importance of the first Bangsamoro Development Plan together with these other plans you have outlined, the 12 priorities, the COVID recovery plan, the camp transformation plan. So you have advanced vastly, but at the same time, many things still have to be done. There remain many challenges. We can see that this plan already provided the context and framework, for example, for the 2021 budget. So it is important to have such a framework in place where you then can base your financing and operational decisions on. It was an important framework for us as partnering with you. For example, the Subatra program, which you mentioned, which focuses on governance, indeed follows the development goal 1 of the EP, the Minpat Rice program, which is on agriculture and economic development, where we work with the World Bank and also the German government, focuses on the development goal 3. The PD BARMM program you also mentioned is about normalization, and the new program, the Bangsamoro Agro Enterprise program, again will be in the context of goal 3. So you can see in our cooperation with the BARMM, we have taken this BDP very seriously and have seen how we can really integrate our cooperation, our partnership with you in this strategic document. It is very important now, of course, to look ahead, as you say, and to see what is this new roadmap you want to establish until the end of the transition period in 25. For us, as you say, it is crucial to have an inclusive approach, to really reach out to the stakeholders, including to the LGUs who are here, including to of course, the provinces, to all the other stakeholders in the government, the communities, the CSOs, and see really what can be done realistically. It's important to really learn the lessons from the first years, at the same time see what is the reality on the ground and where can you develop this further. I mean, obviously a lot of planning has already taken place, a lot of projects are on the table, which we were just presented, and it's important to take stock to see what can be done, what are the priorities, as you will not be able to do everything at the same time. So in each sector, what are the priorities and how can you partner up with the development partners, including the European Union, and also with the other key stakeholders on the ground. So this inclusive, coherent, coordinated approach is very welcome. Um, Indeed, we can see that so far there is a lot of coordination in some areas, for example, on the government side. We also can see that in other areas, like in socioeconomic development, more coordination is needed, and we stand ready really to be your partner in this. Again, very much supporting your approach, and you can rely on us. We will be there also for the coming years to work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Once again, the head of cooperation of the Delegation of European Union to the Philippines, Mr. Christopher Wagner. Another statement of support will be conveyed by the UN Resident Coordinator, Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez, joining us live via Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fantastic, excellent. Honorable Ahod Balagwag Ibrahim, Chief Minister of BARM, thank you so much for your vision. Very much appreciated in the launch of this new mechanism for the coordination of development cooperation. Honorable Abdul Rauf Makakua, Senior Minister, I'm happy to see you again. We just had a meeting a few weeks ago when we discussed the reinforcement of the UN, the reinforcement of the presence of the UN in BARM. Honorable Ali Pangalian Balindong, I very much appreciate your very inspiring speech. Thank you so much. Honorable Mohader Iqbal, thank you for your leadership in the peace building process. I think that was clearly reflected in your message. And of course, Mohagarin Ali, Bangsamoro Director General, you are behind this initiative, and we also appreciate the trust of the Bangsamoro authorities and this growing partnership, not just with the UN, but those that are supporting the UN, many of them present today at this very important forum. And of course, my colleagues from OPAP and NEDA, thank you so much for being with us today. Before anything, I congratulate. I congratulate on behalf of the UN, all of you, for this very important and timely first Resource Partners Initiative, this forum. And this type of initiatives, as we know, they are expected to foster coordination, they are expected to foster transparency, they are expected to foster accountability, and particularly in a moment where development cooperation is changing. So development cooperation started changing at the time of the launch of the Sustainable Development Goals, but as a result of the COVID-19 and as a result of the Bangsamoro Development Plan, so development cooperation is changing. And usually we refer to this change, we are moving from funding to financing. We are moving to simple assistance to capacity development. We are moving from standalone initiatives towards alliances, coalitions. So the level and the nature of development challenges, they are exceeding the single capacity of partners. So the future is coalitions, alliances, and I think that we can even get the example of the private sector. So if you are establishing this mechanism, definitely this is a contribution. We need to we need to ensure coordination to better support this peace building and this state building process that is taking place in Barm. You know that last year we updated as the UN our cooperation framework. We took into account the Philippines Development Plan, but also the Bangsamoro Development Plan, and the idea was to align the existing capacities and resources with the new priorities of the COVID-19 recovery priorities, and of course the peace process in BARM. If you have a look at this socioeconomic and peace building framework, this is the name of the new contract that we have between the UN and the government of the Philippines. If we look into the details, the contribution in BARM for the period 2020-2023 is close to the 5 billion of Filipino pesos. This is the planned investment that we have till 2023. Around 65% of this investment, the investment of the UN globally in the Philippines, is taking place in BARM, which involves 200 UN staff. We have 200 UN staff, many of them Filipino staff, that they are working for the UN supporting BARM. And they belong to 12 UN agencies, and I very much appreciate the trust and recognition of BARM in engaging with the UN. The support that we provide is thanks to voluntary contribution from member states. Voluntary contribution of partners that I think the majority, they are around this table. So it's thanks to this support that the UN is performing and is operational in BARM. We receive grants, but at the same time, we provide different forms of financing and investment through the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. IFAD is a sort of multilateral bank that we have at the UN and is so active in BARM. This support, as I mentioned, is provided by agencies, funds, programs of the United Nations in a wide range of sectors, such as accountable governance, decent employment generation, agricultural development and food security, climate change and essential services of health, education, security, and the justice sector. And in addition to development support, the UN is also in close cooperation with BARM authorities in the humanitarian response. As you know, we have established jointly with the BARM authorities the Mindanao humanitarian team, which gathers also the participation of NGOs and civil society organizations working on humanitarian assistance. I'm pleased to update you that the numbers of joint programs in BARMs has increased from 2 before the COVID-19 crisis to 6 in 2021. So this is extremely encouraging because the UN is coming together in support of the peace process in BARM. I'm not going to mention, of course, all the UN programs that we have in BARM, but I would like to highlight two of them that brings the UN together. The first one is the Peace Building Fund Joint Program on Promoting Conflict Prevention, Social Cohesion, and Community Resilience in BARM in the time of COVID-19, that focus on women, peace, and security agenda in the BARM. I know that the Bangsamoro Women's Commission is present, and this is one of the pillars of cooperation that we have with them. The second one, that it has a great potential, and I would like to invite development partners to join us in this catalytic investment, is the joint program on ensuring inclusive and risk-informed, shock-responsive social protection, resulting in more resilient communities in BARM. This is a long title, as is usual in the UN, but in a nutshell is social protection. We are bringing the global experience of key UN agencies to BARM to make sure that we improve social protection system. And it's interesting because some donors like Australia, DFAT, is now joining that. And this is a call to other development partners to reinforce this type of catalytic investment. So as I mentioned, the work of the UN would have not been possible without significant support from our bilateral and multilateral development partners. If we look at ongoing contributions 2021, we have Australia, we have Germany, we have Japan, Spain, Norway, Canada, New Zealand, Korea, and the European Union. Let me say on behalf of the entire UN system in the Philippines, a big thank you for their trust and generous support. We also appreciate the close and growing partnership that we have built with the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank in recognition that together, definitely together, we deliver better. With my colleague from the World Bank, Diamed Diop, we have established the Bangsamoro Roadmap Group, and we work with development partners to align our main initiatives in BARM around the peace agreement priorities. And we see today's forum as a great opportunity to coordinate efforts with you. It is in line with these efforts to streamline UN coordination in BARM that I have just appointed a UN area coordinator. We have now a UN area coordinator that is representing the office of the resident coordinator in Cotabato. We are innovating on that. And the reason is that this is the moment that we need to demonstrate the strong support of the UN as a system to the Bangsamoro process. And I hope that my colleague will start working with the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority to ensure that this coordination is effective and it shows a growing partnership with the BARM's authorities. Let me just, to finalize, make a particular reference on COVID-19 response and recovery. We are proud of supporting BARM in scaling up health and socioeconomic action to address the impact of COVID-19 on fragile communities in the region. The UN also successfully, and it was mentioned, successfully supported BARM to finalize a regional recovery plan and to ensure planning for recovery by LGUs. I know that many LGUs are represented at this event, including through a socioeconomic assessment of the impact of COVID-19. I'm also proud to say that we were able to provide medical and other equipment to secure an isolation area in BARM Regional Health Center, Cotabato Regional Medical Center. We also supported the strengthening of the cold chain management capacity and COVID-19 vaccination preparedness. I had the chance of being part of the vaccination day in Cotabato. So we provided with key medical equipment and supplies, a series of training for frontline health workers, and strengthened disaster risk reduction management planning at municipal and barangay level. Allow me to end my message with my recent visit to Cotabato, where I met with key stakeholders, including those affected by natural disasters and those displaced by cycles of armed conflict. From my meetings, a few things that need to be noted emerge. Number one, and I think that this first remark was already shared by our BARM leaders, expectations for a successful transition are very high among the population and the civil society. It is important that we use the opportunity offered by the extension of the transition towards 2025 to ensure peace dividends for the Bangsamoro people. Number two, there is a need for greater coordination among various actors intervening in the transition process and ensuring that our support becomes catalytic to sustainable peace and stability. This forum is a great example of a step forward. Number three, I would like to inform you that the UN system in the Philippines is working towards higher convergence and complementarity through joint programming. And one of these flagship joint programs is the new UN joint program on conflict transformation, which brings together a group of specialized UN agencies in the areas of economic recovery and local governance and community-driven development. And we hope to discuss this new joint program with development partners and BARM authorities in the coming days. Number 4, the United Nations system is planning to inaugurate the new UN Area Coordination Office in February 2022. This office represents a new phase in the cooperation between BARM and the UN. And this office will offer great opportunities to enhance dialogue amongst development partners, civil society, private sector, and with BARM authorities. So I do hope this forum will lead to enhanced commitment amongst development partners, and I assure you that the UN, United Nations system, will accompany you in this journey through the transitions and beyond. Thank you for your attention. Thank you so much.
Once again, the Resident Coordinator of the United Nations, Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez. A big thank you for your trust and support as well. So for the statement of support from our development partners, we have 4. Earlier, we had the delegation of European Union to the Philippines, and next we have the United Nations. So as what I mentioned, we have 4, but don't worry for our development partners. We will have the open forum. You can ask questions or convey your message of support. So don't worry, we'll allot time for that. But right now, another statement of support will be delivered by the Country Director of the World Bank. Please welcome Dr. Endiame Diop.
Members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, colleagues from the international development agencies, development partners from both national and local non-government organizations and civil society groups, Assalamu alaikum and magandang umaga sa lahat. Allow me first to congratulate the Bangsamoro Transition Authority for the passage of the law extending the Transition Authority's term. With this extension, we share the optimism that the peace and development programs initiated by the Bangsamoro government will continue, and that the institution building undertaken to enable a more transparent, efficient, and inclusive government will be further strengthened. This first Bangsamoro Donor Forum is very timely and relevant. The extension of the BTA offers an opportunity for key stakeholders involved, including the development partners, to identify synergies to ensure optimal delivery of development programs and services for the region. Supporting the BARM is one of the priorities of the World Bank in its strategic partnership framework with the Philippines. As the Trust Fund Manager of the Bangsamoro Normalization Trust Fund, we are pleased to report that the facility is now up and running and has initial contributions, while several additional commitments from other development partners are under discussion. The first BNTF steering committee was held in August, and the Rapid Impact Project will be supported very soon. We have also continued our engagement in providing advisory and analytical support in the areas of public finance management, financial inclusion, education, and other sectors. And we have continued to strive for strong implementation of national programs in the BARM, including the 4 Ps, PRDP in partnership with the EU, in education and other sectors. The World Bank remains steadfast in its commitment to peace. Let me end by leaving a Swahili proverb: a boat doesn't move forward if each one is rowing their own way. Therefore, let us seize this forum as an opportunity to strengthen our collaboration and partnerships so that we continue moving forward in the quest for lasting peace and development for the region and the country. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Endiame Diop, Country Director of the World Bank. Next, we have the Chairman and CEO of the Philippine Red Cross. Joining us live via Zoom is Senator Richard J. Gordon. All right, again, apologies for that technical difficulty. So like I said earlier, we will be having the open forum. So for our development partners who would want to convey their messages of support or ask questions, feel free to approach the microphones on the aisle. So that will be later on during the open forum. And for our guests who are joining us live on Zoom, don't hesitate to pop in your question on the chat box. All right, once again, the Chairman and CEO of the Philippine Red Cross, please welcome Senator Richard J. Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very pleasant good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum. Let me just greet our distinguished leaders here. Honorable Ahod Ibrahim, Chief Minister of the Barm, Member of Parliament Ali Pangalian Balindong, Speaker, Bangsamoro Parliament, Minister Mohager Iqbal, my good friend, Minister of Basic, Higher and Technical Education, Secretary Galvez, although he's represented by USEC David Diciano, and Secretary Kendrick Chua, represented by Greg Pineda, Assistant Secretary, and of course, physically present are the following: Honorable Abdul Rauf Makakua, Mohammed Asnin Pendatun. This is a known name to me. They have roots in Sambalas as well. Engineer Mohajrin Ali, Director General, Bangsamoro Planning Development Authority. It is a great pleasure and honor to me on this very great morning to be with you. I've always looked forward to being with our brother Muslims, our our countrymen, and especially at this time in our history where we have just extended the term of all the Bangsamoro Parliament. Ating sinuportahan ang Republic Act 11593. In fact, I was the principal author and sponsor extending the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and we moved the election of officials of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao from 2022 to 2025. We have aggressively pursued the Bangsamoro concept, and I remember I came down to Camp Tarapanan in 2009. I believe I was the first senator to do so. And I met with my good friend Jafar, who has already passed on. And I'm very, very sad. Ghazali Jafar was a good friend of mine, and I remained his friend all throughout his death. The last time I saw him was when we had this affair in Malacanang that inaugurated all the officials at that time. And at that time, he was already in a wheelchair, and we had a picture together. We started together with Jafar Ghazali, and then, of course, Al-Jahi Murad Ibrahim joined us, and the three of us, and then pretty soon everybody was joining. So that's the power of unity. From the cabinet to the senators and the congressmen who were present, it grew to these large numbers of people. And that's what I cannot forget. These are my last moments with Ghazal Jafari, and I just want to make sure that we remember him today. I say a little prayer every day for him, and I pray my own rosary, and because he was a precious friend indeed. Today, you're having a meeting here involving the continuation of the peace and development efforts of the Barm, and I can assure you of our continued support because all this will contribute towards advancing social justice, equalization of opportunities, and certainly the development of a new and restored Muslim Mindanao, if you will. This is a Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority seminar, and I'm very happy to participate in this, and I'm deeply honored. As I said, I was there in 2009, if I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and we went over there. And let me just point out that I am not unfamiliar with what is happening in our country. At that time, I was asked by Ghazali to have a meeting with the core group of supporters of what was then the Bangsamoro, the MILF group, and we had a very, very boisterous and very assertive discussion, after which we went inside the inner foyer of the offices of them, and then we put our hands together. I remember Mr. Wakameya of Japan and Congresswoman Coscoluela, who attended there at that time, and we said that I committed because Vice Chairman Jafar said to me, there's been a lot of blood and treasure that has been spent. And I said, I too have spent blood and treasure. My own father was assassinated in the building of this country, and therefore you can be assured that we will be there with you. At this point in time, we start anew. I'd like to think of this as the efforts at restoring the wonderful effort at creating the Bangsamoro. We want to promote the promise of the future now, and this is a very strong indication that we can do this. It can be done. I can remember at this time in 2000 and in 1992, when the bases were turned over after the devastating Mount Pinatubo eruption, we were forlorn because we had lost our homes. And then all of a sudden, right after the Pinatubo eruption, the Americans were asked to leave. And therefore, I was not desperate. I felt that I must inspire our people. And to do that, as soon as they left, we immediately gathered the volunteers of Subic, gave them our vision, which I did way back in 1980, and showed them a vision of the new Subic Bay Freeport, where I showed an American carrier leaving Subic, and you can see the mountains beyond there. And at that time, I had no PowerPoint, and I showed this picture of the same American carrier, and I said, the picture on the left side where you see the mountains of Olongapo in the background is Olongapo today, and Olongapo tomorrow is what you will see in the next picture, where I saw the same aircraft carrier leaving Subic. But actually, it was really San Francisco. Of course, the people were astounded that we could come out with a depiction of what is in the future. And that is what we need, a vision, because vision is a mental picture of an event that is going to happen soon, that cannot be seen at the present, but certainly is better than today. And that is what we must commit ourselves to. We cannot say we're going to develop. We have to start right away. And like Subic, we were committed. We sought the help of everybody, but we were not looking at self-help. We were all looking at self-help, and we were not going to be dependent. That's what I said. Bawal ang tamad. So long po, lalong bawal ang tanga. We have to be smart. So we use the volunteers because I believe the people of our country, when tapped, pag nagsama ang leader at mga tao, lalabas talaga ang galing ng Pilipino. And there you can see we developed the common folks as well as the young people from all over the world who came down. We got FedEx, we got Coastal, we got Enron right away, we got the Taiwanese Economic Development Zone, we had the Japanese Development Zone, and there you see I contacted, the World Bank came to see me. Actually, I did not contact them, and that was right after the turnover. I wasn't even the chairman at that time, I wasn't even appointed, and at that time I said, this is our vision, and they gave me practically an oral examination on what I was going to do it, how I was going to do it. And I said, it's better to know where you're going and not know how than to know how you're going and not know where. And they were quite impressed because I said rather arrogantly that we were going to use volunteers to protect and preserve the facility so that we can prosper. I gave an identification, a definition to our people of Olongapo that we must do this because the reputation of our country is at stake. If we steal this, if we do not protect it and we do not preserve it, and we're not proud of it, nobody is going to invest in our country, particularly in Subic, and nobody is going to believe us, particularly Pinatubo. There was a fear that Pinatubo might erupt again, and rule of law, we're not very famous for. We keep changing the rules in the middle of the game, and I remind you that these are basic in developing BARMM, that we must follow the rule of law, that is predictability, consistency, and continuity. But above all, the people of Bangsamoro must be part of the process of change. I've seen it by first example, by first experience in Sulu when we adopted the Fruits of Hope. I went there and I said, my God, I mean, there's so much promise in Sulu. and we adopted what we call, we bought the fruits in Sulu, all of it, and we put it in a C-130, and we paid for it at market rate so that the farmers did not have to wait for the middleman to come over there. And we used everybody, the leaders of Sulu, the military, the local governments, and the people, the farmers, and we were able to get this done. And soon enough, even President Macapagal Arroyo met us at the airport at the time. She wasn't aware of what we were doing, but nonetheless, she was enthused by it. In fact, we have wanted to do it all over again, and that's one of the reasons why I got the ship of the Red Cross, that one day we can go and bring that ship and just load it with mangosteen, with durian, and all that, and bring it back to the nearest malls or the nearest places where they can immediately ship it to the supermarkets and the malls of the Philippines, or even export it from there. And that's our ship, you see. I never thought I was going to have a ship in the Red Cross, but we were able to procure our own ship. I believe that we should have self-help, self-reliance, and cooperation. And you can see, I brought in the Red Cross and the Red Crescent out of respect for the whole world. That is our international symbol of the International Federation. And this is what we were doing again as well here in Mindanao. We right after, during the war in Marawi, the Red Cross was there meeting people, providing blood pressure examinations, providing water, putting up medical tents, making sure our doctors or our nurses were there to make sure that we could provide the assistance necessary, the psychosocial support. And soon enough, you could see that we were moving forward. One time I brought in the chairman or the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Peter Bauer, and we showed them what the people of Lanao are doing, particularly under the leadership of Governor Adyong and the people there, and we started distributing 10,000 pesos each to so many families there at the gymnasium. This was the second batch. You can see it was fully loaded. And also we provided them relief, and we encouraged them to have livelihood. And I remember I brought dozens of malong that was built there, and we brought it back to Manila. And I used it at home as a table runner, as anything that I could even use it as a blanket. As you know, there are many uses. And I remember also in 2006 when I went to Sulu and saw the Tausug children singing the national anthem and the MNLF anthem at that time, and they all wanted to have computers. And certainly this is something that I bring forth, that education is really the important matter that we should pursue, because especially in our area, we have what we call malnutrition. We are a poor area. We're one of the poorest, if not the poorest in the country, and that should give us time for optimism. The only way to go for Bangsamoro is to go up. And we must inform our public about that, our fellow citizens about that. Same thing with Subic, same thing with tourism when I took over. The only way to go was up. And even in Basilan, when I took the hostages from the Abu Sayyaf, I remember meeting people, young people there that I took from the mountains along with our Red Cross volunteers there, and Congressman, I can't remember his name right now, but I will remember it in a short while. And we brought them down, including the teachers. And if you can see the two types, the two children there, a boy and a girl, this on the right, I was so surprised that in 2017, they came back to see me, that they had already finished college and they now have jobs. And that is why I say there's everything to do. Hope springs eternal. And that is what Bangsamoro must do. We cannot rely on government. I do not believe that we can rely on government alone to help our problems. But we must rely on ourselves, show the respect that we accord ourselves, so that the whole world will respect us also. And I take you back to the example of not only Subic, also of Clark, which I helped develop, and Mariveles, which we converted into a free port zone. And that is now doing very, very well until the pandemic erupted, but we're going gangbusters. They have 44,000 jobs right away that were created. In Subic alone, we had 200,000 jobs. I think they have more than 300,000 to 400,000 jobs now. And we built our airport and our seaport. And today, I wish we could have done better. but unfortunately, when national government intervenes, it becomes a bar. So it can be good, it can be bad. And what we must do is have the will to talk to the national government firmly but fairly and make sure that they respect our work ethic na talagang magagawa namin yan. Tulungan nyo lang kami. Kung hindi kayo tutulong, we will do it without you. And in fact, that's exactly what we did. We convinced the World Bank that we were worthy, and that's why we were able to build our infrastructure there, and we were able to build our airport, etc., etc. Now, talk about redevelopment, you're talking about, for example, about this time, December 13, November 8, Haiyan gave us the biggest disaster in the country of the tsunami. So many houses were destroyed. So many lives were lost. But yet, we gave hope. We put up a humanitarian caravan right away. We brought in help. That is very little when you compare it to the great challenge of the disaster. Houses in ruins, schools destroyed. But yet, we got the international community that respected the Philippine Red Cross. We put them together in a conference about this time, or in February 2014. And right away, when that happened, we were able to show each and every chapter, including Arab countries like UAE, including America Red Cross, including the British Red Cross, and soon enough, you can see the map. We put them there. Everybody had a role, and that's one of the things I'd like to emphasize here. We have to tell our people that they have a role to play, that they must not be dependent. And right away, when this happened, look at what has happened in the aftermath of that. Red Cross put up the first schools in February that year. You can see we did it with the Chinese. First, they wanted to build houses, but the houses that were going to give to us was really dog houses, not even fit for 2 people. So I said, I'm not going to accept it. You have to respect us. And so I said, give me the same materials, but this time we will build schoolrooms because that's what they needed. And right away, we had everybody, including Hong Kong, including Fatima University in Manila. They provide homes. We have payloaders paved the ground. And soon enough, you can see the Chinese there, very tall. But I didn't want to build it for us. We cemented the ground floor, and you can see our people on top of the building. And soon enough, we had classrooms operating. And then we built houses, not just schools. And you can see that today we had built 80,207 homes all over. And you can see that there is accountability. When you ask for help, you can see Australia's Red Cross, the government gave it to the Philippine Red Cross. And in every barangay, in every town, in every city, on our way to building 80,000 homes, you could see I demanded that we buy red roofs so that they can be identified. You can see I have the names of the people who got the homes so that walang kaduda-duda that the money was going to the right people. And you can see that we were also helping them in every respect with livelihood, farm implements, including loans that allowed them, one lady to put up a buko stand, and later on she had 5 buko stands. She had bought his own pickup, and she had bought her own boat, and now she's in networking. There's her picture. Her name is Irene's Buko Shop, Irene Colliera, and pretty soon, with the 5,000 pesos we assisted her, she was able to build her own home. She was able to build her own business, and she's now in the networking business already. So there's everything to believe for in the future. And when we start looking at the future of Mindanao, your agriculture, I think your agriculture represents 35% of your economy in Barm, 40% is in services, and so therefore it is so important that your agriculture, fishery, and forestry sector be developed because many of our poor people live there, and we should go all out in supporting them. The industry sector is only 25.1%, and we still have to develop our other efforts, especially, for example, in Sulu, they're doing very well with seaweed farming and aquaculture, and certainly in Maguindanao, and certainly in Danao, we could certainly do with a lot more investments in agriculture and certainly bring in eventually tourism in Lake Lanao, where we can have, which is one of the most beautiful lakes. It can compete with Lake Geneva and bring in the tourists. We have to develop the airport there. I have landed in Marawi. It's a closed airport right now. Why do we build an airport and close it down? We should be expanding that. At the same time, in Maguindanao, the airport can be expanded and we can work together. I have pretty good connectivities with the GCC countries, and they've been helping me all throughout Bahrain, UAE, Dubai, Qatar, all these countries, including Oman, Saudi Arabia. They've been helping us. Everything from dates to money. In fact, we're distributing to 1,000 families 5,000 peso food relief every month right after Ramadan, and it's closing down in December this year. After this afternoon, we will be giving 3,500 pesos to 600 families. This is part of our cooperation with the European Union. Last week, we did this in Lanao and in other parts of Cotabato. And again, we will be giving about 10,000 pesos again to certain families that we're lining up in terms of Red Cross assistance. And therefore, all this we can really develop very, very fast. Certainly, we'd like to be able to know that we have already addressed the pandemic. We have a molecular laboratory right there in Cotabato City, where now we are one of the lowest in terms of pandemic intervention. 11% pa lang ata ang lalagyan nyo ng tinatawag natin testing or bakuna. We will send the bus there as well to bring the buses to bring vaccination to the folks all over Mindanao. We have operations in Lanao, Del Sur, and certainly in Sulu. It's a very robust operation, including Tawi-Tawi, where, by the way, yours truly assisted in the final completion of the Bongao Bridge many years ago, when it was just lying idle with all the equipment not stolen for years, lying there. When I reported this to my President Arroyo, it moved, and finally they have the Bongao Bridge. I wish I could visit there and see it right away. So immediately today, we start today. Look at the major restoration in Japan. We can immediately send our people, young people, to go abroad and study what they have there and bring it back. It started in 1868. Ito Horibumi of the Japanese government sent young people, and they sent even women abroad to learn. And when they got back, by 1905, they had a steel industry. From their silk agricultural industry, they had iron, steel mills. They were building cars. They were building bicycles. And pretty soon, in 1905, their ships were the first Asian nation to sink the Russian fleet in the Battle of Tsushima in 1905. In just 37 years, they were able to do that. I'm sure we in Barm can do that. Pag nagsama tayong lahat, you can be assured of my continuous cooperation. And I can only tell you these stories because totoo lahat ito. Nangyari lahat ito sinasabi ko sa inyo. And I think we should stop dreaming and start thinking. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, not gold but only men can make nations great and strong. Men who for truth and honor's sake stand fast and suffer long. Brave men who work while others sleep. Men who dare while others shy. They build a nation's pillars deep and lift them to the skies. Allahu Akbar. God is great. But God is great because He created a people called the Bangsamoro people who will help themselves. Not just give them a fish a day, but teach them to fish and make sure that the Mindanao region of Muslims, Mindanao, the Barm area, will take its proper place not only in the Philippines but in the whole world, just as the Sultanate of Sulu once upon a time was a mighty kingdom, and just as our exploits in war like Sultan Kudarak and Amay Pakpak did their bit in war, now is the time for peace and to prove ourselves by defining ourselves that in peace we can really bring in development, great health, great livelihood, great education, and certainly great unity and stability for our people in our country, and most especially, particularly in Bangsamoro. Thank you all very much. Mabuhay kayong lahat. And thank you. Shukran. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. That was the Chairman and CEO of the Philippine Red Cross, Senator Richard Gordon. Now at this point in time check, it's 11:32 in the morning. We shall now have the open forum. So I'll turn you over to the Chief of the Macroeconomic Development Specialist of the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority, who will serve as your moderator for the open forum. Please welcome Ms. Camelia N. De Vera Dacanay. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Ms. Bea. It's my pleasure to greet and welcome our honorable BARM government officials, our distinguished guests and development partners here in the complex, and the 132 participants joining us through Zoom. My colleagues in the government service, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the first BARM Donors Forum. Okay, this part of the program is intended to be a venue, not only to establish the linkages, but also to foster and or enhance the coordination mechanism and the partnership between the BARM government and our local and international development partners. Before the forum begins, allow me to present the three panel reactors. They are seated here in the front row, the first row. We have our BARM Senior Minister, Honorable Abdul Rauf Makakua, our BPDA, BARM, Bangsamoro Director General, Engineer Muhajirin T. Ali, and our BARM Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Muhammad Asnin K. Pendatun. All right. Here are the ground rules of the forum. First, for our guests and participants here in the complex, if you have questions, kindly raise your hand. For our online participants, kindly click the raise hand button. When you are acknowledged, kindly approach the nearest microphone on the aisle, then start by mentioning your name, the office or organization that you are representing, and which panel reactor you would like to address your question. You have 1 minute to pose your question and give elaboration if necessary. Our panel reactors, on the other hand, have 3 minutes to answer or respond to the questions or the statements. Our timekeeper, Miss Princess, will raise the green flash card to warn the speaker of the remaining 30 seconds, and a stop card when the time is up. The speaker must immediately conclude his remarks. When the issue or question is raised is also a concern of the other speakers, they may give additional inputs or answer to the question. Time limits are closely followed to ensure fairness to all participants. Also, in deference to our limited time, please hold your applause until the end of the forum. In addition, we would like to remind everyone to engage in the forum with respect and diplomacy, as this is an open forum and not a debate. So without further ado, the forum is now open and any question may be raised now. We have the gentleman over there. Sir, kindly approach the microphone.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. This is the planning officer from Sultan Sabarungis, Maguindanao. So direct to the question, Anyway, pwede mong mamagid na nun. O Tagalog na lang, tag-list. Doon sa mga nakaset na goal, although may environment, pero gusto kong malaman, is there any direct intervention on our wetland reforestation? Given it is the reality, the Mars is really degrading, its biodiversity is degrading. Second question, do you have any plan to establish an office who shall be in charge of this flooding? Flooding is a serious issue as far as Maguindanao is concerned. So this is a threat, and we cannot afford that one of these days, almost half of Maguindanao LGUs are underwater or shall be erased from the map, which is why I am asking or recommending that there shall be an office who shall establish to be in charge of this perennial issue of flooding. Then, this is not a question, but I would like to express in behalf of our LGU that we are in pursuing sustainable peace and order. In fact, more than 50 of our brothers from BIFF, were returns to the courts of the law with the effort of LGU and some agencies of BARM, MSSD, the AP, and the MIG. And I would like to express our thanks and gratitude to BARM. This is the first in the history of my career that BARM, particularly Farm to Market Road, is really moving forward. If this will continue, I believe 5 years from now, barangay road connectivity will be established in our municipality. Kaya thank you, maraming salamat sa BARM. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that appreciation, sir. So, to whom do you address your questions, sir?
Anyway, we are planning officer. Of course, I address this to the planning office of the BARM. Kasama ba sa plano?
Okay, I
Yung,
believe that is addressed to
wetland
BPDA
repo.
Director General Muhajirin Ali.
Thank you again.
Yeah, maraming salamat po sa tanong. No? It was a very, very important question. And I think the LGU from Sultan sa Barungis po ba? Yes, sir. Yes. Basically, yung sinabi niya, yung perennial problem nila of flooding. Yeah. That's very true because Sultan sa Barungis is basically within the center of Ligawasan Mars, no? So pag tumaas yung tubig, talagang they are drastically affected. But with the presentation that I gave last time, no, based on the investment that we have provided, no, for infrastructure, no, aside from the already constructed na yung iba ay tinatapos po ni BARM for flood control projects, no, we are on the pipeline of having at least nasa 137 flood control projects po na funded na. Ibig sabihin, those flood control projects amounting to 137, no, in terms of number, ay basically funded po ng 2020 and 2021. And I'm sure the MPW is also have similar proposals for the 2022 budget for next year. And yun na nga po, ang challenge is how we'll be able to fast track yung implementation because the more na we fast track, then the more na we will definitely address yung perennial problem of flooding in those areas. That includes yung adjacent areas niya po, Dato Piang, Dato Saudin, all those areas surrounding the Ligawasan Mars po. So tama po, nasa pipeline po yan at we hope that with the challenges posed to us by the pandemic, we will be able to fast track the implementation. Ongoing na po yung ibang projects dito ng district offices ng MPW po, especially on the 2nd District of Maguindanao where Sultan Sabarong is part of it po. Salamat.
Okay, since there is still time, no more? Okay, we'll entertain another question. Anyone? The lady in gold, Tundong? Yes.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all. Kasi good EM pa po. So I am Haja Nabiha Nonilao, the President and CEO of the Mindanao Center for Local Governance. Now this center is as well is accredited by the BADC. So, ang question ko po dito is, I would like to address this to the office who is responsible and implementer of the Subatra project. Kasi po, the MCLG was then identified as one of the CSO, supposed to be the partner of that project. And we also heard or learned that this Subatra project was officially started last August po, 2021. And then we are waiting for the notice of when or kailan po kami masali. And I think this month or last month, may nagbisita po sa amin ng taga-CBCS po. Pero until now, wala pa pong information. And secondly po is we would like to appeal to the development partners as well as to our BARMM officers and agencies to give more attention and prioritization to all NGOs and CSOs operating in Lanao del Sur and Marawi City as local partner po of whatever programs that could be or that will be implemented in Lanao and Marawi City. Now, lastly, in behalf of our 30-plus non-government organization, POs, and cooperatives who are members of our Lanao del Sur People's Council, in which I am also the chair, would like to express our commitment to help and be with you or be with the BARM in its pursuit of development. Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, to whom do you address your concern?
Kung sino po ang pwedeng
okay.
sumagot, kahit sino. Kahit na po si Sir, Engineer Ali.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think the question was basically about Subatra, no? And then the other two things was a message of support. And I'm sure the EU is also present, including my team from Subatra. So I hope you heard that. Subatra have 4 components actually. We have component 1 for the OCM support, 2 for the selected ministries and agencies. 3rd component is about justice system, and then 4th is on the civil society organizations. So I think Ma'am was referring to the 4th component of Subatra, where the principal partner of EU is 2 organizations po, no? Yung nabanggit din po ni Ma'am na CBCS And the other one is the Bangsamoro Development Agency of the MILF po. So yun po yung two principal partners, and I'm delighted to hear that Concerned Puma, and they're also, I think, present via Zoom, and they heard your query with regards to the Subatra support for civil society. And I will talk to them to engage you and then discuss, among others, yung possible engagement that your organizations and the two agencies or two organizations that the Subatra partnered with for component 4. And in having this, we have also the ACID, no, who is the one handling the 3 and the 4 component of Subatra, ma'am. So thank you very much for the concern, ma'am. Salamat po.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oscar Moreno of UNOPS is also raising his hand. He is joining us via Zoom. Okay, sir?
Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga po. Yes, my question is as follows. Infrastructure is key for sustainable development. Actually, we have measured that the infrastructure impact 90% of all the targets in SCG. So my question is, how do we own for this much needed infrastructure? Because public financing will not be enough. We'll need to bring private ODAs financing. So my question is, how do we unlock this, and how we as development partners can help BARM unlocking this financing? Thank you very much.
Can you reiterate the question because I missed something from...
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
Yes, my question is, how we as partners can help BARM unlocking financing for the much needed infrastructure in BARM?
How can the development partners
support BARM
for
unlocking financing for infrastructure?
Low-key financing? Tama ba?
Unlocking financing.
To help support financing of infra.
Okay, aside from the
yes.
already funded.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. We have 15 ministries and I think 9 offices, no, based on the administrative code. And among those ministries, the center of the infrastructure projects are from the Ministry of Public Works, MPW. And we have also agencies, ministries who also do infrastructure projects such as education, health, and social services. So, and we have already triggered the inventory of all these infrastructure projects from the previous arm up to the proposed and ongoing implementation of the BARM infrastructure project. So I think one of the things that the development partners could do is to engage our office to make sure that any infrastructure support that the development partners would provide would not overlap the existing one that we have already funded under our block grant. No? And also, there is a need for us also to, that's why I also triggered the inventory of all the development partner support, including national government, in order to avoid also duplications and overlapping. So we will try to do this one also next year to make sure that all of those infrastructure support given to us would be properly identified and mapped in a sense that so that we will be able to make sure that any additional support from the development partners and even the national government would complement to the existing infrastructure that we are implementing, including those of the development partners and the national government. Thank you.
Okay, sir, another question from UNRCO, or the Resident Coordinator's Office, from Miss Melina, the Peace and Development Advisor. Ma'am?
Hello, good noon, since we're heading towards the noon break. Thank you very much to BPDA for organizing this really important first donors forum. My question really is, and I think today's exercise has really been a great sharing of information, particularly in terms of getting the priorities identified by BARM. My question really is, what are the next steps and process to bring about better joint planning between the BTA and the partners? Because otherwise, I think what we have is a situation where the development partners are developing programs which they align to these broad frameworks, the 12 priorities, the BDP, but perhaps there's a need for more fine-tuning and closer engagement. So what would be the process, or basically would it just be waiting another year to look at what has been achieved so far? What would be the interim steps and process? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Melina, for the questions. One of the concrete steps that we will be doing next year, as early as January actually, is to update the existing development plan that we have, again, for the next couple of years now, for the extended transition period. So with that, we will be able to, as what I presented a while ago, expect that there would be a series and very important consultations that we will be doing next year, especially when we update our existing development plan for the BARM amid the pandemic that we have right now. So that is one of the things that we need to do next year, so that within the whole year, if we'll be able to formulate and then later on approve the said development plan of the BARM, for including the extended transition period, then we have already a guide on what to do for the next 3 years for the BARM. So that's one of the things that, in terms of the next step, that we need to make sure that we will do that next year. And the rest would also be towards the implementation also of the response and recovery that we need to undertake, including the leveling up of certain programs that we have also funded by the BARM, and including those funded by the development partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Ali. Any more questions from the complex? Yeah. Yes, sir. The gentleman at the back.
Thank you, ma'am, for recognizing me. I am James Dalumimbang from the Office of the Deputy Speaker, Attorney Omar Yacis Ima. The first question will be addressed to the Senior Minister, Honorable Abdul Rauf Makakwa. While along the way on the implementation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, what the government of the day has been observing for the implementation of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Then number 2 question will be addressed to the representative, the OPAP. What are the consensus points, if any, in the Bangsamoro Organic Law which hardly to be implemented by the national government? Then the last question will be addressed to the DG of the Bangsamoro Planning Development Authority, Engineer Ali. Despite the left and rights project of the BARM, the Philippine National Authority has recently labeled the Barm is the poorest region in the Philippines. Thank you and wassalam.
Can you recap the two questions for Senior Minister Makakuwa? The first question, what was the...
What the government of the day has been observing on the implementation of the organic law?
Observing or implemented?
What I mean, what the government today has been observing on the implementation of the organic law, like in the decommissioning or other consensus points agreed by the CPS and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front.
Tagalog daw natin kaya para sigurado ha. Ano na po ang natapos o di kaya na-observe sa implementasyon ng BOL in accordance maybe to the agreed agreement between the GRP and the MILF. If that is the question, the answer is that the implementation and the establishment of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is the one of the agreed version of the BOL. Without that agreement, this BRMM will not be happen today. So, if the question is, ano na po ang na-implement ng BARM? Karami-rami po tayong, we have so many accomplishments. When it's come to project, when it's come to legislation, and when it's come to overall situation of the BARM. And maybe the Director General of the BARM has already spoken and elaborate it to us just now what was and what were the accomplishment of the BARM. So, in other case, I am requesting the questioner that kung pwede, punta ka na lang sa office ng OCM o di kaya sa amin, sa OSM o di kaya sa MENRE, mag-usap tayo ng matuwid para malaman mo kung ano ang talagang nangyari sa BARM since the inception of this institution. Thank you and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Senior Minister Makakuwa. Okay, quick question lang, sir. There's a second question.
Yeah, ano yung second question?
And, sir, what was the second question?
The consensus points agreed upon by the GPH and Moro Islamic Liberation Front as stipulated in the BOE is hardly to be implemented by the national government, if any.
Yes. Paano na yun? Di ko masyadong consensus points agreed by both the GPH and the MILF?
Yes, yung anong consensus point nila na nakikita nila sa stipulated sa BOL ay maaring mahirap implement tulad ng final peace agreement.
Yes, consensus.
Yeah.
If I fully understand the questions, most of the challenges in implementing the Bangsamoro Organic Law are being addressed by the IGRB. Kung nakita nyo kanina, meron ho tayong intergovernmental relation body na meron sa national government at meron din sa BARM. So kung may provision man ng organic law na challenging, itong IGRB po ang nag-handle ng provision na yun. Like for instance, with the recent meeting ng IGRB last time, one of the things that we discussed is the implementation of the policing in the Bangsamoro Organic Law. So with that, we discussed the number of police that the PNP would accommodate in line with the provision of the Bangsamoro Organic Law na pwedeng sumama from the MILF and then the MNLF. So yun yung mga ilan dun sa mga provision na binabanggit mo na pinag-uusapan, no, the both government discuss. Among others, there's a lot of issues that were already discussed and settled actually by the Bangsamoro government and the national government. No? Like for instance, sa education naman, if I may, there was an issue of the DBM didn't anymore fund the SUCs, some SUCs within the BARMM. So, naging agenda ng IGRB yon because this SUCs has supposed to be part of the national budget yearly because they are being handled by the CHED National for the schools, universities, and colleges. So most of the time, all of the issues and concern pertains especially to the implementation of all provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law as are being settled by the IGRB po between the national government and the Bangsamoro government. If I understand fully the questions, no? That's part of the issues na pwede kong i-share sa inyo, no, for this one. If you're referring to the consensus that both the national and the Bangsamoro government have already agreed upon in implementing the key provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Then, what's the last question, sir? For the BPDA?
Yung last question ko tungkol sa, kasi despite the fact na left and right yung project natin sa BARM, Bakit PCA na gilabel niya ng BARM is the poorest region in the Philippines.
Yes, sir. Sir, based on the PSA, no, Philippine Statistics Authority, which basically handles the indicators for this, no, tulad nung sinasabi natin what we call the poverty incidence, they are getting these indicators every 5 years. So the latest indicator that we have was 2018. Then plus 5 years, we will be having a new indicator 2022 po. So we will know by 2022 next year what is already the status of the ARM in terms of poverty incidence, no? As compared to other regions in the country po. We have done so many things already initially despite the fact of the challenges that we have. So we will know by then next year what is already the poverty incidence for the BARM. But what I can share to you is that with regards to the annual GRDP that we have, we are still on track. No? In fact, in 2019, we are second in the Mindanao and seventh in the country in terms of GRDP, meaning we are really doing something to make sure that our economy would somehow be improved because of the implementation of various programs and projects from the ARM itself, no? Except for the 2020 pandemic. No? But again, with that, we are still the lowest affected as compared to other regions. Po. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Since the current time is 12:05, we will entertain 2 more questions. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to entertain every question submitted, so we suggest that if you have more questions, kindly write them down and give them to our designated facilitators posted in the aisle. You may ask a paper and pen from them. We will consolidate those questions and cluster them according to sectoral concerns, and those will serve as inputs or reference to the updating of our first BDP. We have a question here submitted from Ms. Sonia Jacheva from EU delegation. The question is, have you planned for a follow-up or second donors coordination conference? When would that be? I think the question is addressed to Director Ali again. He's the most favorite panel reactor today.
Definitely, there will be an annual donors forum to be conducted by the BARM. It would be a matter of timing next year. But I think one of the best timing for next year is after election. that we could do the second round of donors forum, whether it would be during the third quarter or even during the fourth quarter for that one. But definitely we will have the second round, and it will be a matter of how we will again do the second round of this donors forum for next year's consumption. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, there's a name here. From UNHCR, sir. Mr. Vic de la Cruz.
Salam. Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Program Associate po ng United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And may 3 points lang po from my end. Unang-una po is our head of national, in behalf of our head of national office, Attorney Iya Gallardo, and our head of field office, Ms. Corazon Lagamayo, would like to convey our support to the BARM government for the next 3 years po. And the second point is what are the relevant activities that we are going to launch by next year, 2022. And one is we are going to amplify our efforts for the IDP bill at the BARM level by engaging wider networks of protection duty bearers. And the second one is support the BARM in the development of durable solution strategy in close coordination with other stakeholders to address protracted displacement in the region. And my third point is perhaps still addressed to the Director General. Sir Engineer Ali, if you can recall, we had a visit at your office last August of 2021. And one of our strategic goal for our disengagement in the ID operations in Mindanao is the transfer of knowledge of UNHCR to the BARM government. And we will be going to engage with different ministries for starting this year until 2022. That includes MSSD, MILG, BHRC, among others. And for BPDA, we would like to, gusto ko po sanang balikan yung ating usapan last August. If possible po, ma-proceed po natin yung plan natin na learning visit, because one of the planned transfer of knowledge is on the peaceful coexistence projects or the quick impact projects ng UNHCR. We would like you to know, and other ministries, how we develop these projects in order for you to see the process and perhaps replicate these projects and to ensure sustainability of these projects. So perhaps if this will happen, we hope we will be going to invite BPDA and other ministries to conduct learning visits. And so far, for your information, we have around 295 projects all around BARM, all around Mindanao, and 90% of these quick impact projects are in BARM. So that's more of, not a question, but more of an invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, sir. Since that is an appreciation, so let's entertain one last question. Okay, see the gentleman there, because he's been raising his hand kanina pa, no? Sige, sir. One last question. Kindly write your questions if you still have more queries. Yes, sir?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Ako po si Flex Buisan, representative ng Anor Community Development Association Incorporated na may opisina sa Sitio Malating, Salman, Ampatuan, Maguindanao. So, the members of this association are MILF, BIAP, particular in Inner Guard, Base Command, National Guard, Front. So, ang mga members nito ay karamihan ay nasa sakop ng Maguindanao. Pero meron kaming area sa part ng Sultan Kudarat Province sa bulubundukin ng Isulan or Bagumbayan, Sultan Kudarat. Now, ang concern namin po ay ano po ba ang may tulong o di kaya ma-assist ng BARM government sa mga naturang members. This question ay ini-address po namin sa OPAP o kay Sir Abdul Rauf Makakwa. Salamat. Sukran.
Gandang question ha. Pag-usapan natin muna, we will talk first on the organization that already in the BARMM. So, yung mga tao po na nandoon sa BARMM, na already in the inside BARMM, wala na po tayong problema doon kasi nasa sakupan na po ng programa ng BARMM. But we will talk on, second, we'll talk on the outside the core territory, yung sinasabi niya kanina. So there is a provisions in the VOL that people of Bangsamoro, people outside core territory has to receive assistance. This assistance is isa, yung tulong, normal na tulong, yung basic na tulong sa kanila, especially so that we are in the COVID situation, na yung mga ayuda talagang meron pong tulong ang BARMM doon. But on the structure, we are still on the process of discussing the infrastructure tulong doon sa outside core territory. Because in the BOL, hindi talaga specific na yung structure na pwedeng silang tulungan. Like for example, the Kapianan, yung housing project ng BARMM, hindi pa rin masyado klaro na pwedeng itulong sa outside core territory. But on the medical side, yung ambag, meron na po tayong mga hospital na nasa outside core territory na pwedeng makinabang ang mga tao kahit hindi, even they are not within the BARMM territory. So yun po ang sagot namin doon. So both nasa loob at sa kalabas, meron din talagang tulong ang BARMM.
Thank you, Senior Minister Makakwa. So finally, the forum has come to end. Now we find this part or portion of the program very exciting. So since the Donors Forum will be an annual event, no, we will do our best to give more time for this portion of the program. We hope this part of the program has served its purpose as your gateway in expressing your queries and points of views or point of views. So again, thank you everyone for joining us in today's first BARMM Donors Forum. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. That's Ms. Carmelia Endever Dacanay, the Chief of the Macroeconomic Development Specialist of the Bangsamoro Planning and Development Authority. So like she said, we have come to a close. So before we go our separate ways, let's just hear from the Cabinet Secretary of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Muhammad Asnin Pendadun, for his response from the BARMM government and closing statement. A round of applause, please.
A'udhu billahi min shaitan rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Isang maganda at mapayapang umaga po sa ating lahat. My utmost respect and courtesy to our leader in the Bangsamoro struggle and now our leader in the Bangsamoro government, Chief Minister Ahud Al-Hajj Murad Ibrahim, and also to one of our distinguished leaders in the struggle as well as in the government, Senior Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa, to the national officials who joined us earlier via Zoom, represented by their respective colleagues, Secretary Carl Hendrik Chua of NEDA, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., to Speaker Attorney Ali Pangalian Balindong, and to all of the members of the Parliament in attendance and also via Zoom, to Minister Mohagir Iqbal, to our partners, Mr. Christopher Wagner of the EU, Mr. Gustavo Gonzalez of the UN, Mr. Ndiame Diop of World Bank, to Senator Richard Gordon of the Chairman and CEO of Philippine Red Cross, and also to all other partners Here today, I see Mr. Yo Misawa of JICA, I see Bernard, and all of our local stakeholders and partners, to our friends from the security sector, from the, I believe from the 6ID, Colonel Richard Caballero, sir, thank you for joining us here. To the Pro-BARM delegation headed by Police Colonel John Paul Labra II. Magandang umaga po sa pagpunta at maraming salamat po sa pagdalo. At higit sa lahat sa aking pong mga kapwa Bangsamoro, to my fellow public and civil servants, to the local government units, representatives, CSOs, and to our stakeholders, muli isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Today's donor forum shows that the commitment of BARM to its development partners is without a question. This commitment ensures that we will be working toward the full mission to which we are called. As many of you know, and as emphasized several times during this forum, COVID-19 has adversely impacted BARM's development transition. Yet, despite being confronted with the enormous task of rebuilding the economy, we regard the pandemic as an opportunity for the BARM to further stimulate the economy and improve the quality of life of our people and light up the pathway for a rapid development. We continue to aspire to rise above the unparalleled catastrophe and foster a more inclusive Bangsamoro economy, one that harnesses the Bangsamoro people's combined strength and spirit because of the partnerships we have with the development partners. I want to thank all of you gathered here today, virtually or physically, for optimizing partnership, working hand in hand with BARM since establishment, and for some, even at the earlier stages of the Bangsamoro peace process. You've been with us, and I'm really thankful for that. I know that many of the achievements we are so proud of today have been made possible with support from you. We would like to take this opportunity to commend also Engineer Muhajirin Ali and the rest of the BPDA family for spearheading this important event. You guys deserve a very warm applause, and I hope everyone can join us in giving such due acknowledgement to them. This forum is a significant step towards or forward to achieving our shared goal of inclusive growth and development, ensuring that our policies and programs are geared towards serving the needs of the Bangsamoro people and transforming the lives for the better. As we look ahead, we will lead. We will lead on all the greatest challenges of our time, from COVID to climate, peace and security, human dignity, human rights, among others. But we will not lead alone. We will lead together with our development partners and with all those who believe, as we do, that this is within our power to meet these challenges, to build a future that lifts all of the Bangsamoro people. And this is not something that has to happen, nor it is a choice. As our Chief Minister often say, this is a moral obligation. Now that the extension of the transition period has been settled with the passage of RA 11593, let us approach this opportunity with the mindset that we cannot be complacent and we cannot take things for granted. In the contrary, I challenge everyone, first and foremost myself, to approach this opportunity with a mindset that, as our theme for today's forum emphasized, we have to optimize our partnership and make the most of the opportunity given to us. Let us all continue to live a partnership with a purpose, and let that purpose be to empower and serve the Bangsamoro with pure hearts and sincere intentions. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Thank you, and muli, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much. That was the Cabinet Secretary of the Bangsamoro Regional Government, Muhammad Asnin Pendatun. So time check, it's 21 minutes past the hour of 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So earlier I said good morning, now it's good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us the entire morning and now half your afternoon for the first Bangsamoro Donors Forum. Now for our guests, we have a sectoral display outside, so feel free to visit the booths. And our guests online, If you have any questions or if you want to get a copy of the presentation of Engineer Muhajirin Ali, just pop in your email address so we can send them to you. And again, for our guests who still have questions, please write your questions on a piece of paper and then forward it to our facilitators. Or if you want to do it online, just email bpda@bangsamoro.gov.ph. Again, thank you very much, everyone. Maraming salamat. And we look forward seeing you next year for the next BARM's Donor Forum. I'm Bea Alwaita from the Office of the Cabinet Secretary. Goodbye and have a safe way home or have a safe way back to your office. And attendance online.